4 wins, 3 losses. On the surface, those numbers might not seem extraordinary, but when you look closer, they tell a remarkable story. Because that winning record belongs to a 21-year-old player from the Philippines. A young woman who, just a couple of years ago, was struggling to make it through Grand Slam qualifying draws. A player few people outside hardcore tennis circles had ever heard of. Yet somehow, against some of the biggest names in the sport, she keeps finding ways to win. Her victories have come against a reigning Australian Open champion, against a former world number 1 who spent years dominating women's tennis, against a Wimbledon finalist who had just bulldozed through much of the field in Dubai, against players most rising stars spend their careers trying to avoid. 4 wins, 3 losses. The record is real, but numbers rarely tell the whole story, and the space between what statistics reveal and what they fail to capture is where Eala's story truly begins. Her full name is Alexandra Eala. Born in Quezon City in May 2005, she is now 21 years old and already carrying the hopes of an entire tennis nation. At the moment, she sits at world number 35. Earlier this year, she climbed as high as number 29 before a difficult clay court stretch pushed her ranking back slightly. Even that setback says something important about where she is in her development. Eala is a left-hander. She plays with aggression, confidence, and a willingness to take risks from the baseline. When momentum swings in her favor and the crowd gets behind her, she becomes one of the toughest players on tour to break down. Curiously, she still owns 0 WTA Tour-level titles. At the same time, she has a winning record against top 10 opponents. Both facts are true, and that contradiction is exactly what makes her such a fascinating player. Whenever Eala defeats a major name, the reaction tends to follow a familiar pattern. Headlines explode across social media. Articles appear describing the result as shocking. Analysts call it a surprise. Fans celebrate for a day or two before attention moves elsewhere. Then the victory gets filed away as an upset. A one-time event. A lucky performance. A great day against an opponent who simply wasn't at her best. But that explanation becomes harder to accept every time it happens again. One upset can be dismissed. 2 major upsets in the same tournament start raising eyebrows. For victories against top 10 players across multiple seasons and multiple tournaments force people to reconsider their assumptions. Especially when those wins come in straight sets. Especially when they happen on hard courts, where Eala is at her most dangerous. At some point, the conversation has to change. This is no longer about whether Eala can compete with elite players. She already has. And more often than not, she has walked away victorious. The real question is different. What kind of player are we actually watching emerge? To answer that, we need to go back to the moment the tennis world first started paying attention. March 2025. The Miami Open. Eala arrived in Florida carrying a wild card and a ranking of 140 in the world. On paper, she looked like another promising teenager receiving an opportunity. On the court, she looked like something entirely different. Her first major test came against Madison Keys, the 5th seed, the reigning Australian Open champion, one of the most explosive ball strikers in women's tennis. Just weeks earlier, Keys had powered her way through Melbourne with fearless attacking tennis and some of the biggest ground strokes on tour. Most expected the experience gap to be obvious. Instead, Eala took control almost immediately. From the opening games, she dictated rallies, absorbed pace, and redirected power with stunning confidence. By the time the match ended, the scoreboard read 6-4, 6-2. The result looked convincing. The reality felt even more impressive. She didn't merely survive against Madison Keys. She dismantled her. In just 56 minutes, the young Filipina secured her first top 10 victory at WTA level and announced herself to the tennis world. For many players, that would have been the story. For Eala, it was only the beginning. 2 days later, an even greater challenge stood on the other side of the net. Iga Swiatek. At the time, Swiatek was ranked world number 2, but rankings alone didn't capture her dominance. For years, she had effectively ruled women's tennis. 4 French Open titles, a US Open championship, hundreds of weeks spent controlling the top of the rankings. One of the most feared competitors in the sport, and now she was facing a teenager ranked 140th in the world. The expectation seemed obvious. The outcome was not. Eala stepped onto the court without hesitation. She took the opening set 6-2. Then came the real test. Swiatek fought back in the second set, erasing a deficit and leveling the score at 4 games all. For most inexperienced players, that momentum shift would have been devastating. Eala never blinked. She calmly won the next 3 games and closed out the match 7-5. Straight sets. No collapse. No panic. No fear. Just belief. With that victory, she became the first wild card in WTA history to defeat 3 Grand Slam champions in straight sets during a single WTA 1000 tournament. The tennis world called it a miracle run. Many assumed it would be remembered as the high point of her career, a magical 2-week stretch that would eventually fade into history. But that assumption missed something important. Miami wasn't the peak. It was the foundation. 11 months later, Eala would prove exactly why. February 2026. Dubai. The Dubai Duty-Free Tennis Championships. By now, she had climbed into the world's top 50 and gained a year of valuable experience competing against the best players on tour. Her opponent was Jasmine Paolini, the 6th seed, the reigning French Open finalist, the reigning Wimbledon finalist, one of the most respected competitors in the game, and the defending champion in Dubai. The atmosphere was electric. Later, Eala would describe it as one of the most emotional environments she had ever experienced. The stadium was packed with Filipino supporters. Every changeover brought louder cheers. Every point felt bigger than the one before. She could feel the energy. She could feel the expectations. And she could feel thousands of people willing her toward victory. Instead of shrinking under the pressure, she thrived. Eala stormed through the opening set 6-1. It was ruthless tennis. Clean winners. Precise shot-making. Total control. But champions rarely disappear quietly. Paolini responded in the second set, fighting back with the determination that had carried her to Grand Slam finals. She saved 3 match points. She broke Eala when the match seemed over, and eventually forced a tiebreak. Suddenly, everything hung in the balance. The tiebreak reached 5-5. The crowd held its breath. One mistake could change everything. One fearless swing could end it. And when the pressure was at its highest, Eala delivered. 2 final points. 2 final moments of courage. And the match was hers. The scoreboard showed another straight sets victory. But what it really showed was something far more significant. This wasn't a young player enjoying another lucky week. This was a competitor building a habit of beating the very best when the stakes were highest. 6-1, 7-6. That victory became her 3rd win over a top 10 player. And once again, it revealed a fascinating pattern that was becoming impossible to ignore. Tennis analysts began pointing it out, and for good reason. Every single one of Eala's victories against top 10 opponents had come in straight sets. Not one had required a deciding set. Not one had depended on a dramatic comeback. When she beat elite players, she beat them convincingly. Yet her losses told a completely different story. Every defeat against a top 10 opponent had stretched to 3 sets. When she lost, she didn't disappear from the match. She pushed some of the best players in the world to their limits before finally being stopped. That contrast matters. It tells us something important about her game. Eala is not the type of player who sneaks through big matches on luck or catches lightning in a bottle for a single afternoon. Against elite competition, her level actually rises. The bigger the challenge, the better she seems to play. But the journey was far from perfect. Dubai provided another reminder of that reality. After her brilliant victory over Jasmine Paolini, Eala advanced to the quarterfinals where an even tougher challenge was waiting. Coco Gauff, world number 4, a Grand Slam champion, one of the most explosive athletes in women's tennis. And on that particular night, Gauff delivered one of the finest performances of her entire season. From the opening points, she controlled every exchange. She served brilliantly. She dictated rallies. She attacked relentlessly. Most importantly, she never allowed Eala to settle into the match. The scoreboard told a brutal story. 6-2, 6-2. Just 67 minutes. A complete dismantling. Gauff won an incredible 77% of her first serve points and left Eala searching for answers that never came. There was no momentum shift. No comeback opportunity. No dramatic twist. Just total domination. And this is where any honest discussion about Eala has to pause for a moment. Because this is where the skeptics have a point. Not about her talent. Not about her victories. But about her consistency. One week she can overwhelm a top 10 player and make them look ordinary. A few days later, she can find herself on the receiving end of the exact same treatment. That is the reality of being 21 years old on the professional tour. The gap between a top 30 player and a top 10 player isn't talent. It's consistency. It's producing your highest level week after week, month after month, regardless of conditions, surfaces, or opponents. And Eala is still learning that lesson. Earlier that same year, she suffered a first-round exit at the Australian Open. She also fell in the opening round at Roland Garros in both 2025 and 2026. Professional tennis has a way of exposing every weakness, and young players often learn those lessons the hard way. Eala is no exception. The record book includes both the highs and the lows, the victories and the setbacks. And telling her story honestly requires acknowledging both. But what happened next may be the most important chapter of all. Because champions are not defined by how they win. They're defined by how they respond when they lose. 3 weeks after the Dubai defeat came another massive tournament. Indian Wells. March 8, 2026. International Women's Day. Third round of the BNP Paribas Open. And standing across the net was a familiar face. Coco Gauff. The same Coco Gauff who had handed Eala a painful lesson less than a month earlier. The same world number 4. The same Grand Slam champion. The same player who had looked untouchable in Dubai. It was a rematch few people on Eala's side would have requested. But it turned out to be exactly the match she needed. Because what happened next revealed more about her future than any victory she had achieved before. The first 6 games told the entire story. Eala broke Gauff's serve immediately. Then she broke it again. Then she broke it again. And then she broke it one more time. Every service game Gauff played in the opening set ended the same way. With Eala walking away as the winner. For service games. For breaks. Total control. By the end of the set, the scoreboard read 6-2. But the numbers underneath were even more revealing. Gauff committed 26 unforced errors. Eala committed just 12. 3 weeks earlier, Gauff had dictated every point. Now the roles had completely reversed. The player who had been overwhelmed was suddenly the one applying all the pressure. The second set began much the same way. Eala surged ahead 2-0 and looked firmly in command. Then everything changed. Gauff began experiencing discomfort in her left elbow. She called for a medical timeout. The trainer came onto the court. After attempting to continue, she ultimately made the difficult decision to retire from the match. Officially, the result goes down as a 6-2, 2-0 retirement victory for Eala. And that's an important detail. Because the truth matters. This wasn't a completed match. Gauff was injured. She retired. And a retirement is a retirement. No serious analysis should ignore that fact. But another fact is equally important. Before the injury forced the match to end, Eala had already produced something remarkable. She had completely flipped the script. Against the same opponent. On the same surface. In the same season. She had gone from being dominated to being the dominant player. ESPN highlighted the significance immediately. With the victory, Eala improved her record against top 10 opponents to 4 wins and 3 losses. But the most important moment wasn't the final handshake. It wasn't the retirement announcement. It wasn't the official result. The real story happened during those opening games. The confidence. The adjustments. The tactical changes. The willingness to confront a painful defeat and come back stronger. That was the breakthrough. That was the evidence. The Dubai loss provided the lesson. Indian Wells provided the response. And this is where statistics and emotion finally meet. The record says 4 wins and 3 losses. A simple number. A snapshot frozen in time. But what the number can never fully capture is what happened between those matches. It cannot show the growth. It cannot measure the adjustments. It cannot explain how young player absorbed a difficult defeat, returned 3 weeks later, and rewrote the entire matchup. The record says 4-3. The story says something much bigger. It says Eala is learning faster than the players try and stop her. That is not how a player behaves when success comes from luck. That is how a player behaves when success comes from preparation. When you look at Eala's biggest victories, a pattern begins to emerge. She doesn't stumble into wins against elite opponents. She studies them. She learns from losses. She makes adjustments. Then she comes back stronger. That is what separates promising talents from future stars. The rankings may not fully reflect it yet, but her performances already do. And perhaps the clearest insight into who she really is came not after a famous upset, but after a smaller tournament victory that many casual fans barely noticed. June 2026. Birmingham. Fresh off another important milestone, Eala captured her second WTA 125 title and her first professional grass court championship. In the final, she defeated Nikola Bartunkova 5-7,